You know how you see those videos on YouTube that'll say like the best camera settings for XYZ video? Well, I want to address a question that I recently got on one of the walkthrough videos that I did on the channel. The comment says, you do the same thing like everyone else. You tell what to do, but you don't tell how to get the settings so that you can set them. And this question kind of bothered me a little bit, not because of the actual question, but because of the mindset back of it. And I just kind of want to address that for just a smidge. The problem with this question is not so much so that the question itself is a problem, but understanding that this is somebody that's just getting started in video. And most of the time when you have somebody that's doing that, they literally know nothing about the camera. And they're in the process of trying to figure out how to actually use this thing. And so you start searching and you find yourself going through that rotation of questions. Basically that narrows you down to, how do I get the best settings for this camera for video? And that's what comes in for a lot of the videos that we see on YouTube. I myself have gone through those specific videos, but the problem is with this question in general, there is no best settings for a specific camera for video. But that's the question that a lot of people ask. The reason why there really is no honest answer to this question is simply because your settings are based on your environment. And while I can give you a screenshot and show you the actual settings that I'm using for videos like this to get the blurry background, you'll think that you can set it, or you'll run into the issue of why don't I have an f1.4 or my lens can't go down that far, because you're using the kit lens. And so you're stuck at f3.5 and that turns into a whole other thing. Or you're using a different camera that may be similar, or you assume like this is as good as I can search for. And so you land on a video that's not really your camera from a different brand. You'll say, at the end of the day, my video doesn't look like that person's video. I've been there and it's a frustrating cycle and circle to be in. And the reason why is because the settings are based on your environment, meaning the environment for your audio is going to be reflective of your audio mic that you're using or source. Do you have any background noise that's going on at the same time? And is your microphone built to reject noise? Also, the kind of lens that you're using and the room that you're recording in. I don't know if you have a window or if you do, and I don't know if you have actual dedicated lighting and if you have diffused lighting for your audio sources. And if you don't, that changes things. And then there's this exposure triangle. And this is what really trips a lot of people up, because you have no idea what that even means. You don't know what settings to change and the how. And again, at the end of the day, you're just trying to figure out, how do I get my stuff to look like your stuff? And this exposure triangle equation becomes a problem, because you say, well, I want it to be cinematic videos, or I want it to be slow motion videos, or whatever. But if you don't understand this, nothing else will matter. The exposure triangle deals with the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO. And then based on that, of course, your frame rate, the 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, or 120 frames per second is going to dictate what your shutter speed should be. And that's going to deal with motion blur. So either it looks normal, it looks more slowed down in dreamlike state, or it kind of looks a little crazy and very jittery. What most people are trying to identify is that 24 frames per second that is generally used for cinematic video. And by default, your shutter speed is going to be 1/50th of a second, or 1/50. Well, once you get those two set, then you're pretty much locked in. After that, you're looking to your aperture, which the lower that number is, the blurrier the background will become. But most people don't initially start out with a great lens that can do that. So you're most of the time stuck at f3.5 with a variable aperture, meaning it'll slide up and down that number scale. So between 3.5, 5.6, even up to f22, where literally everything is in focus. And then your ISO, which doesn't stand for anything, it's just ISO, that actually will be the light sensitivity, how bright or dark an image is. Now, all that sounds like foreign jargon, and you probably don't really care, because again, your goal is to get your video to look like the person's video that you're watching. But if you don't understand that stuff, nothing else matters. And while you can copy a person's setting so that it does mimic what somebody else's look, the brightness, the sprinkles in the shot, that noise in the shot is always going to be a problem, because there's other things to learn. So if you find yourself kind of getting in this place, there's a video I already did on this so that you can learn the easiest way about going to figure this stuff out, instead of just defaulting to auto and saying like, I wasted my money, or my webcam looks better. simply because the webcam probably already figured it out, or you put your camera in auto because it already figured it out, but you're trying to get a specific look, or maybe you want it dark, or maybe you want it bright. There's certain things that your camera won't know to do for you, because those are things that you're supposed to tell the camera on how to operate for you. So I already did that video that'll walk you through how to learn to see what the camera is setting for you, and then make that decision for yourself if you want it bright or dark. But then that brings us to the conversation about lighting. If you're not using continuous lighting sources that are actually good for video, it really won't matter that much, because your lighting will suck. And even though you have a great lens and a great camera, even if you're using a kit lens, it still look like trash because you don't have good lighting. And having a good lighting source that's diffused makes the difference between you looking regular or washed out, which is like just an infinity white that you can't get any detail from the camera. And then lastly, of course, that deals with your audio as well when you're producing a good video. If you're using a mirrorless camera, then you literally can get like a $12, $20 lapel microphone and sound fairly decent. Or you can use something like what I use, which is the Shure SM7B. A little bit of an overkill for some people, but it's not for where my business and brand is now, and just the quality of sound that we want in our videos. But let's get back to this original question that this person is really confused about the settings of it. And I wanted to kind of just talk about this a little bit, because when I went to travel to New York, the best settings is not going to carry you outside of that space, even if you figure it out one time. Because when you get ready to travel, you're changing scenarios constantly, going from indoors to outdoors. And yes, the good default is that if you don't know anything, just put the camera in auto and let it figure it out for you. But that also leads to a frustration, and where a lot of people find themselves of, I've wasted my money, this camera isn't doing what I would hope that it would do, or it's too difficult to learn this stuff. And I promise you, it'll feel like that maybe in the beginning because you don't have the right path of questions to ask, or you're trying to figure all this stuff out by yourself. And I get it, and I've been there. But when you're traveling or you're going out and about, knowing this exposure triangle is what's going to make the difference of being able to go into a conference and figure out what the settings should be in that environment and what to do. That also has nothing to do with white balance, which can either make you look literally black and white or super orange and look like a Cheeto. But if you need to figure out those settings for your camera, I really encourage you all to pull back the curtain a little bit and think for a second of what is happening in your environment. Where are your light sources actually coming from? And not just do you have a lighting setup, but do you have diffusion lights to soften that light so that you look normal? Do you have a gray card to make sure you have your white balance set so that you can get normal looking skin tones no matter what you look like? And the other thing is to understand that video takes some time to learn. And while I get it, you've just bought your camera and you're still trying to figure all this stuff out. Give yourself some grace in trying to figure these questions out about video. Use your camera for the first 30 days so that you're very comfortable with the menus. You're very comfortable with the way it feels and what to press and where to go. If you're only recording once a month, then that really makes it difficult for you to learn something new and figure this out. It's always going to feel like you're starting from scratch every day one, that you're starting over, and you've had this camera for 6 months. I've gotten those emails. And probably haven't made past one video. Make the videos anyway, even though you may feel uncomfortable initially, because at the end of the day, you will actually learn the right way to use it. And if you want to see those videos where I show you how to judge an environment so you can get the proper lighting setup, what to do when it comes to your settings, and everything else in the in-betweens when it comes to getting started with video, make sure you check out the videos on the screen. They'll be very helpful to you.